Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and today I thought we would do another color along in Meine Reise, durch, Afrika. So the page I have picked is this one. This is page 86 in the book, and I am going to be using Prismacolor pencils, and I'm going to be using kind of some muted greens, pinks, muted like slate gray, and those type of colors in this. So grab your pencils and let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back. We're going to do another page in Meine Reise, durch, Afrika. I'm really excited that I was able to get this done. Hopefully I can get it edited and up on the channel before I leave. But I really like how this page turned out. So I debated a long time about what to do. As you know, I've been trying to do like interesting facts because, you know, some of these pages, there isn't a whole lot of explanation as to why I'm doing one thing or the other. I mean, here I'm adding a little bit of dark to the edges and a little bit lighter on the inside. It's like nothing earth-shattering about that, right? So, but the video's like an hour. So what do we talk about for an hour? And I've discussed the fact that I'm just not that interesting of a person to have a one-sided conversation for an hour with you guys. So, the one thing I will say, and I'm not going to talk about it right now, I'll talk about it when we get to it, is there is a color that I erase. And there's a big pop-up to let you know when that's happening, so you can decide how you want to proceed. But anyway, we'll chat about that more in a bit. So I did debate on what to chat about because I know that snakes make people uncomfortable. But I feel like if you're doing this color along, you're looking at it, so I might as well give you some. I thought some of these are really interesting facts. Some of them are a little more boring, like snakes come in 3,600 different species, which is a very large number, and only 6 countries in the world don't have snakes. So that's kind of interesting. But some of the facts I found were very intriguing. So I'm going to go ahead and run through some snake facts, and you can let me know in the comments if any of these surprised you any, or maybe changed your mind about what you think about snakes. So snakes first appeared 98 million years ago, which I'm not even sure. How does one go about fact-checking that? I don't know. Maybe it was carved in the stones of cavemen. Captive snakes can live up to 170 years, while wild snakes can reach 100 years. There are 725 snakes that are venomous. Now, this is one that I found extremely interesting, and I didn't know this. It says, snake eyes can show whether it's venomous or not. Venomous snakes generally have slitted or elliptical pupils, while non-venomous snakes have round pupils. Now, there are exceptions to this, it says, so I wouldn't go, grabbing any snakes just to test it out. But I thought that was really interesting, and I didn't really put that together before. It says here, snake scales can help them breathe underwater. For most snakes, the scales help them retain moisture, but in other cases, the scales can grip and reduce friction, helping them navigate on different terrains. Snake skeletons have between 600 and 1,800 bones. Snakes all have 10 bones in the skull and jaw, but the ribs and vertebrae vary wildly. For example, the 10-centimeter long thread snake has an average of 200 vertebrae and a pair of ribs each, amounting to 600 bones, and bigger and longer snakes have more in comparison. So that makes sense. But that's a lot of bones. Like, you wouldn't think of snakes as having bones. But, well, there you go. Only 70% of snakes lay eggs. Though reptiles usually lay eggs, 30% of snakes actually give birth to live young. And they're usually either, just skip that. Let's see. This one I thought was interesting too. Pico jackfruit snake venom, so Pico jackfruit is the name of the snake, could possibly cure cancer. So in South America, it is a potent venomous snake, and the venom actually causes vomiting, blood pressure crash, blindness, diarrhea, and a closed-up throat. But what they're doing is they're trying to figure out a way to use that venom to target cancer cells. So that would be interesting if they could do that. Fun fact, denim is effective protection against snake venom. It says if you get bitten by a snake and you are wearing jeans, it could save your life. Snakes injected 60 to 66% less venom on denim-covered gloves compared to bear gloves. Now, what bear gloves are, it's B-A-R-E, not B-E-A-R, just to make sure we have no confusion there. I'm not sure if they mean like leather, something that non-denim gloves is maybe a better way to say it. I don't know. Snake teeth are always curved backwards. So unlike humans, snakes, they don't chew, so they don't need their teeth up and down. They actually curve backwards to keep the prey from getting loose once they bite. Snake venom is actually a deadly saliva. It contains toxins to help immobilize, digest, and defend against prey or threats. Once expelled, it targets different bodily functions such as sight, breathing, or red cell production. And it's composed of 20 different compounds of proteins and polypeptides. So that's interesting. All right. Dreams about snakes have both negative and positive meanings. So snakes in dreams can symbolize many things such as fear, hidden threats, subconscious, and sexual temptation. Oh, so if you dream about... Okay, this is making me laugh. However, your dream about snakes could also represent healing, transformation, and creativity. Okay? Snake poop looks like bird droppings. Okay. Good to know. There are no snakes in New Zealand. So, if you are very fearful of snakes, maybe you want to check out New Zealand. I guess it went through several periods of glaciation, which made it too cold for snakes. You also won't find them in Iceland, Greenland, Newfoundland, Ireland, and the Antarctica. See, I knew I wanted to go to Ireland for a reason. Snakes shed 3 to 6 times a year. Because it stretches like human skin, they have to actually molt it as they grow. So they shed it 3 to 6 times a year, and they grow a new skin layer underneath. And then they'll rub their head against rough objects to trigger the shedding process, which also rids their bodies of parasites. Okay, so it says here there's an island in Brazil that only has snakes. And I'm not even going to pronounce it. It's, here, I'll throw it up on the screen. Okay, it sits between Brazil and the Atlantic Ocean, and it's called Snake Island, and it houses a snake population of 5 snakes per square meter. Oh my word, I would so not go there. While snakes in and of themselves, no, I don't want to be around them. I'm not quite as snake phobic as some. The kind of the fun fact is we were down by the river, and I grew up around water snakes, and as a kid, you know, or garter snakes, I guess they're called, and I saw one and the boys wanted it, and so I just reached down and picked it up. And I had just met my husband at the time. We had only been out on maybe 2 or 3 dates, and I picked it up and I literally thought he was going to pass out. Okay, so here's where I use this chestnut, and I like this color, and I think it looks fine so far, right? But then as I go along and I add the more purple tone to the little berries on the side and stuff, I ended up feeling like it didn't fit in with the rest of the palette that I had developed. And so I erase it. And the reason I left it in is because the color that when I erase it, it's still stained. So it's not going to be the true purple, the black cherry color that I use. And so I want you to be aware of that, because if you just simply substitute the black cherry, it might create a color that's less harmonious as well. I don't know. I didn't try it because mine were all stained and I didn't have that option. So consider that when you're coloring this. If you want to color it and erase it so it looks more like what I have, you may want to test it on a separate piece of paper and see if it makes much of a difference. But I just wanted you to be aware, because the other places where I use the black cherry, it's always kind of layered with another color. So I just wanted to throw that out there. All right. Snakes only eat 6 to 30 meals a year. They have a very slow metabolism, and they really don't need to eat much. And I know the really big snakes, I've heard, you know, because they eat bigger prey, I mean, it takes forever for them to digest it. Says scaleless snakes are popular pets. Funny, it says, discovered in the wild, the western garter snake was the first to start the trend of domesticating these creatures. Many seek scaleless snakes for their striking colors due to the absence of scales. I definitely don't want any as a pet. And I'll tell you another funny story. So before we bought our house, I was living in a townhouse, and there was these steps on the back porch, and right there kind of beside it was like, I don't know, like a divot that kind of went underneath the stairs a little bit. And there was this whole mess of garter snakes there, and they were small. They were just little babies. And my son Marco was probably 5 or 6 maybe at the time. And he grabbed one, and he comes in and he tells my mom, "Grandma, look at the worm I found." And my mom looked at it and totally lost her mind. She screamed, and I come flying down the stairs like, what? You know? So it was kind of funny, but you know, I made him go put it back. But they were totally safe, but at the same time, it gave her a heart attack. Okay, So back to the page here. I just wanted a little more pink to the green here because the green is very much a prominent color in the snake. I just felt the need to add some pink to the tips and kind of blend it out just a little bit here, using that lighter pink. So you can also see that I forgot to record here, so I'm just kind of showing you what I did, essentially. Okay, now we're back to coloring. Sometimes when I click on the button, if I don't push it just right, it doesn't start recording, and I try very hard to catch it, but, you know, sometimes you don't. Okay, it says here, the flying snake is in Southeast Asia, and it can glide through the forest. They climb trees through special scales on their belly, and then it launches itself once it reaches the top. And then it curves its body to keep it in motion, and they can go 100 meters, which, okay, that's 300 feet. That's like a football field, y'all, with minimal effort. So I will be staying out of Southeast Asia because a flying snake would freak me out. Okay, 1 in 3 adults have a snake phobia. It's called ophiophobia, ophiophobia, or herpetophobia. Okay, did you get your giggle out of the way? Okay. Let's see what other interesting things. The black mamba is the fastest snake. Here I'm going in with the darkest blue, or with the actual only, I mean, it's slate gray, but to me it's a blue. And I'm putting it in the darkest, like, shadowy areas, and then trailing it lighter as I go out so that we can make it look more like a ribbon, right? Okay, so the black mamba can move 4 to 5 meters per second. And it's a venomous snake. And it says the black mamba still kills around 20,000 people per year in Africa. Wow. So that applies to our Africa page. I don't think this is a black mamba that we're coloring. The death adder strikes the fastest. It can strike, inject venom, and be ready to strike again in 0.15 seconds. Okay, so we're going to stay away from that one too. This is kind of a gross one. Snakes can explode after eating too much. Although a snake's jaws and body can stretch multiple times its own size, it has a limit. In Florida, a 13-foot python was found with a 6-foot alligator protruding from its body. The python's head was missing, while the alligator's tail and hind legs stuck out from its body. Ew. But that's wild. Snakes use their tongues to navigate. They have poor eyesight and hearing, so they have to use their tongues. A snake's fangs only last about 6 to 10 weeks. So much like sharks, a snake wears through its teeth with prolonged use. So once their fangs fall off, new ones quickly grow in their place. Australia carries the most species of venomous snakes in the world. Out of the 23 deadly snake species, 21 of them are found in Australia. I still want to go to Australia. Snakes can eat things 75 to 100% bigger than their own size. The more a snake eats, the more offspring it can bear. For example, the Arafura snake eats the least and lays only one egg every decade. A snake's body will fail if its temperatures really reach below 10 degrees centigrade. They're cold-blooded, so they can't generate their own body heat. They have to bask on rocks to keep warm. Some snakes can retract their fangs. Snakes don't stop growing. Half of all snake casualties are from India. Snakes reportedly kill over 40,000 people per year. However, unrecorded cases would probably amount to 100,000 deaths. Half of these casualties have been from India. I wonder if it's because they like to do the snake charming thing. Or maybe that's just, a tall tale? Or I don't know. I mean, I've never been there, so I don't know. So snakes are immune to their own venom. However, they're not immune to a different snake's species venom. Mad snake disease can make snakes tangle into each other. Okay. The king cobra is believed to be one of the most intelligent snakes. They're the only species with strong familial sense. Unlike most snake species who abandon their young, they're the only snakes that create nests and defend their young. I didn't realize that, I guess. Sea snakes can dive over 300 feet deep into the ocean. Most sea snakes, say that 3 times fast, don't bite unless provoked. In one state in India, snake shrines are a household necessity. Snakes are revered in Hindu mythology. Worshipping Nagas or half-human, half-serpent deities, the devotees call themselves Nagaraja. The southern state of Kerala is predominantly Nagaraja, with households generally having their own snake shrines. And they actually have a temple, too. Snakes don't have any external ears. They can hear through their skin, their muscles, and bones, carrying the vibration to their ears.
We've never spoken, but you told us many.
Sorry about that. A headless snake can still bite. A severed snake head can still bite for an hour after being cut off. In fact, decapitated snake bite is more fatal since they cannot regulate the amount of venom they expel anymore. Snakes can do this because of their slower metabolism rate, which keeps their organs alive longer. Now, one thing I do know, having grown up in Wyoming where there's rattlesnakes, baby rattlesnakes are actually far more dangerous than adult rattlesnakes for the same reason, because the babies don't know how to regulate it either, so they just release all that they have when they bite. So you have to be careful of that. Snake venom is the strongest beer in the world. The strongest beer in the world by alcohol volume is snake venom by Brewmeister. It has a, alcohol, ABV, whatever that stands for, of 67.5%, which is considerably higher than hard liquor such as gin or brandy, which averages 40. So that's kind of crazy. My apologies. You guys are getting all of the notifications today. Should you shut your phone off, Wendy? Yes. Yes, you should. That was my daily spam call. Okay. The cottonmouth snake is the only venomous water snake found in North America. And I think they are mainly found in the South. I don't know if we have any cottonmouths around where I live. Never seen one. Hope to never see one. Bull snakes copy rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes are a venomous snake known for its distinctive warning where it shakes its tail, and some non-venomous species adapted to mimic this behavior, such as bull snakes. But they don't have special muscles on their tails, but it imitates the sound by thrashing its tail on dead leaves and hissing loudly. Another fun fact, bull snakes are actually really good to have on your property because they eat like mice and spiders, and I don't know if they eat spiders. They definitely eat mice. So if you live on a farm, that can sometimes be a problem, and so a lot of times people like to have bull snakes around. The spitting cobra has 100% accuracy rate. It can spit at its victims over 8 feet away. It can spit from any position and has 100% accuracy rate for targets within 2 feet. It usually aims for the eyes with its permanently blinding venom. Oh my goodness. You guys please don't unsubscribe. Please, please. The Sonoran coral snake farts when it's scared. Oh my goodness. I didn't read that until I read it out loud. Okay. So, that's a strange way to deal with things. Experts call this phenomenon cloacal popping. As you'd expect, the gas emits a foul smell to drive away enemies. Okay. I told you some of these facts are wild. Snakes can't blink. Snake charmers make their flutes out of a vegetable. So that's what I was talking about, the snake charmers. The flute-like instrument isn't a woodwind or brass instrument. It's actually made from a gourd. So that's kind of interesting. So snake eggs don't have the same texture as bird eggs. They actually are more leather-like. The black racer snake is a constrictor that doesn't constrict. It's known as the eastern racer, and it's in North and Central America. And this snake is pretty fast, but despite being classified as a constrictor, it doesn't suffocate their prey. Instead, they pin an unsuspecting rodent, frog, or lizard or bird to the ground with a few coils and swallow it whole from there. Okay. So non-venomous milk snakes look very similar to the highly venomous coral snakes. The way you tell them apart is by the pattern. Milk snakes show a red body surrounded by black bands, while coral snakes, the red part is surrounded by yellow. And I think the phrase is red touch yellow, kill a fellow, red touch black, friend of Jack. I think that's how it goes, or something like that. Okay. Snakes hibernate at different times. Some snakes, like boas and pythons, don't hibernate at all. Okay, so here I'm using that chestnut color, but I use it really lightly, and then I use the pinks. And then at the very end, I think later on I show it, I do take a touch of that black cherry and kind of put it around, the deepest shadows. But if you want to use the black cherry here for your darkest color, that wouldn't be a bad way to go since we changed the chestnut. Okay, Some cultures believe snakes are immortal. Here I'm just erasing where I got it in the little insides there. So I guess there's two-headed snakes, and it says they don't survive very long because both heads compete for food and attack one another. Okay. All snakes are carnivorous. You can't make a snake commit to a plant-based diet. Even the harmless snakes feed on smaller animals since they need protein. Vietnam has a wine made of cobra blood. Oh, gross. Oh, that is so gross. And I'll spare you how they get it. A man once bit a cobra that bit him and had no symptoms. The guy got bitten by a cobra, and in response, the Nepalese farmer bit the cobra back, and eventually the cobra died, and the man suffered no symptoms. Okay. I'm not sure how that works, but okay. A python got loose at Google's headquarters on April 1st. On April Fool's Day 2007, Google sent an email to its employees about a python in the office. The workers initially assumed it was a bad April Fool's joke, but one of the employees actually lost sight of their pet ball python, Kaiser, who got loosed in the Google headquarters. However, the owner eventually found him with no incidents. Oh my goodness. A rattlesnake's tail muscles are one of the fastest muscles of any animal. While a rattlesnake engages its tail, the muscle fires an average of 50 times per second and can keep firing continuously for 3 hours. Wow. Newborn snakes have as much venom as an adult snake. Since most snakes abandon their young, newborn snakes are born ready to hunt. And it's as potent as an adult's venom. Snakes can survive 2 years without food by digesting its organs. Oh. Okay. But then do they create new organs, like after they eat them? How does that work? They can eat their own heart? It says the slower metabolism allows them to survive losing heart muscle and mass in other organs. Forever? Okay. Says here Samuel L. Jackson accepted the role in Snakes on a Plane simply for the title. He reportedly threatened to leave the production once the title change was suggested. He's like, nah. That's kind of funny. Says here, don't wash a snake bite wound. There are many misconceptions about how to deal with a snake attack. When treating a snake wound, one must never wash the wound off with water. Rinsing a snake bite with water will remove the remnants of venom on the wound, which makes it harder for emergency responders to identify which snake bit you. This will delay the process since they won't know what treatment to administrate. So that's kind of interesting. Okay. So can you see here now as I'm adding these kind of red, violet, the black cherry color, that deep red color, how it's kind of, I don't know, it's just, the chestnut is too brown. It goes really well with the pink, but then once I added the purplish red, those two don't play well with each other. But the pink and the black cherry work nicely. So I decided that I liked the look a little better of the more purple color. And so that's the one I decided to remove. Just looking to see if there's any more. It says the heaviest snakes can weigh 500 pounds or more and grow in to 29 feet in length. That's in South America. That's the anaconda. But so what did you guys all do for 4th of July? Did anyone do anything unique or different? Do you have any traditions that you like to do? If you live in the United States. If you don't live in the United States, you're probably like, who cares? But I like to hear what people, sometimes people have little traditions that they do. When the boys were young, we used to go and watch fireworks, of course, but I've never been a big one to like buy my own fireworks. We have what are called sparklers, which are just kind of like, well, they kind of sparkle on the end of a stick. And we did those, and I did those as a kid. But I don't know. It's just never been my thing. I like to look at the pretty ones in the sky, but as far as like to shoot them off myself, first of all, they're pretty expensive. Second of all, a lot of places they're illegal. And this year is a little wetter, and I think that's why there were so many more individuals lighting off fireworks. I mean, I've been in the same house for over 23 years, and I have never seen the amount of fireworks that we had this year. Was it like that where you live, or was that unique to where I live? I don't know. Now, with these little flowers, like this little spot, you could definitely use like a fine liner, or like an acrylic pen would work really well to make the yellow pop off. In the end, I end up, here I forgot that's supposed to be yellow, so I just erase. But in the end, I use white. But I think, you could add little pops of yellow or something like that if you wanted to, with like a Posca pen or a Artix acrylic pen or whatever, a Jelly Roll maybe. Now here, I debated for a while on what I wanted to do with this background, because I really didn't want to leave the page completely white. Some pages I don't mind doing that to. This was one that I felt like just needed a little something to, because it was circular and they put down the dots and everything. So I just felt like it needed some color. So to me, this sandbar brown is kind of a nice neutral, and I went very light with it. And then I think I used putty beige also, which is another neutral color. And my idea was I wanted it to be very subtle in the background. I didn't want to draw the eye to it at all. And I didn't want to use something that would detract from the colors that I've used in this page, right? I didn't want it to compete with what I've colored. So that's why I picked this really neutral brown. I oftentimes lean towards like brown ochres, or I don't have my I was trying to think of the other one. The light brown color. But I didn't want to add anything really in the yellow realm. And yet I didn't want to go dark like espresso or something like that, because I felt like that would be, I wanted something light, because this whole page is pretty light. And I think that's part of why I didn't like that chestnut. I just felt like it was just kind of in your face right now. It's just like, that's the first thing you see when you look at this page. So, anyway, that was my thought process with this. I think I could have used a French gray. I think that would have worked good as well. Possibly a warm gray would have worked. But I felt like the putty beige added just enough pink without competing with the pink, but it's leaning towards that. So I felt like that worked. Sometimes it's hard for me to articulate why I pick certain things. I have to really think about it. I don't know. I just thought it would look nice. Is not very helpful if you're trying to learn, well, what made you think it would look nice? And so I apologize if what I say comes out awkward sometimes, but it's not something that I necessarily consciously think about. But looking at this color, it is kind of a pink gray. And what are we using on our page? We're using muted tones, and we have a lot of these pink purples, right? And so I feel like this is just a nice neutral that kind of depicts all that. So here I made that decision. Yep, I was just going to erase. I didn't like this. I didn't like the little triangles there. And so I just kind of, anywhere that I've really used that chestnut without going into the flowers, I went ahead and erased it. And now look how much softer this feels, and how it now isn't jumping out at you and isn't in your face. It's just, it adds a little pop of color without being too much, right? Or at least that's what I feel. So I feel like it was a really good change. Now you can see that there's still remnants of it, and so I don't know if that changes the color or not enough to be concerned with it. And there I had been trying to decide what I wanted to do with those little dots in the middle. My first thought was I was going to use a fine liner. In fact, I even pulled it out, a dark green Stabilo, and I was going to make them dark green. But then when I put this purple in, I thought, no, I really think that should be the color there. And so I just fill in all the dots with this purple color here. And I like it personally. I feel like it works. Especially here, they almost look, black, or they look very dark, which is nice, but we haven't introduced another color, and we haven't introduced black, which I think would be a little too harsh on this page. So I wasn't really sure if this was just a random berry. There's only one there. And I had debated if I wanted to put this slate gray into those leaves, or if I wanted to leave them a little more green. But in the end, I felt like they needed a darker color. And so I went ahead and put the slate gray in. You can see from the ones on the top, it's a subtle difference, but I do feel like it made a difference. And I like the contrast. Okay, so now I pulled in a cool gray, and I'm just using it to add a little bit of shadow here and there, because once again, I don't want to add a darker tone or hue here. I just want to deepen this a little bit and add a little bit more contrast without really changing the color palette. And it's not a lot, but it does add. And by going around the edges here, I can deepen up the green. With Prismacolor, at least, in order to go to a darker green, I think dark green is probably the only darker green that I used. Maybe I could have used like a Prussian green, but it will actually change, like, I don't know, it just changes the color. And I really didn't want to do that. And you might say, well, you're changing the color here. And I am, but I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I'm changing the value here and not the tone, if that makes sense. I'm just making it darker, but it still reads green. It's not reading a different shade of green. Maybe I'm delusional. Feel free to let me know in the comments. But be nice. Don't make me cry. But I'm really liking how this turns out. And I feel like some of this deepening of the shadows here in places really makes the page stand out more. I think that I realized I missed an entire leaf there. But I do feel like these subtle changes are oftentimes the thing that makes a big difference to your page. I even add a little bit of this gray in those leaves for the same reason. And take a look at the ones I just finished versus the ones on the bottom. Do you see the difference? So at this point, we're just touching things up. We're adding in the little details, things where I missed or things where I'm smoothing things out. For the most part, the bulk of the page is done. I do like the nice contrast that this page has compared to the last two pages. Well, I'm not sure how I'm going to put these, whether you're going to see. I end up doing the page across from that vibrant page 65, right? I do the page right next to it. And I do this page. And so both of these videos will be coming out here in the next 2 weeks. So if you haven't seen the one, when you're seeing this one, know that it's coming. And if you've already seen it, well, then you know what I'm talking about. But I do feel like it's a nice contrast to the vibrancy that we added on those pages. Now here I'm just adding in, I'm using a very light hand. I'm just kind of adding a little bit of pink to some of those neutral colors in the background, just for interest. And I'm using the lightest pink, right? But I just feel like it kind of helps. You're getting all the sounds today. The neighbor dog barks, so now Ellie feels the need to respond. Here I'm going over the little seeds, and I'm not sure what kind of berries these are. I colored them the color I wanted because I'm the boss of my own coloring book. And I like this. But then I decided, no, I want some pops of white. And I really like how the white is turning out, so I go crazy with it, and I put white dots all over. So I basically am putting white dots wherever there are dots, like on the leaves and around the snake's head, and the dots that kind of go in a circle, like just below his head there. You see how there's like those little circle? So that's where I'm adding them. You can add them wherever you want. You could even put them all over the outside edge. That might look really cool. In the end, I decided not to do that, and I left a lot of those dots black. But you could definitely, you know what would be really pretty is if you used like a paint pen. If you had like colors that were similar to what we used, and you used those on the dots in that outer circle. Just another thing to think about. I'm tempted, but I think I'm going to call it a wrap. And as always, I appreciate you watching. Please do the YouTubey things like and subscribe and leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. And until next time, happy coloring. Thank you for watching another video from Jazzydoodledesigns. If you enjoy adult coloring content, please consider subscribing. You can now find me on Instagram and Facebook as well. I welcome all comments and suggestions. Don't forget to like the video before you go. And until next time, take care.